Well, as Kirk said, welcome to Orion. This will be the first virtual tour that we've run, so it's a great opportunity to learn technology here. And I think we've got this figured out, so we'll give it our best shot here. So I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to give you kind of an overview of Orion. And then we'll take you on the tour. So, oops, I believe I'm sharing my screen now. So Orion operates two facilities. We're an aerospace manufacturer, and we have our main facility in Auburn, Washington. It's about 6 years old, and it's just under 100,000 square feet of manufacturing space adjacent to the Auburn airport. That's where you'd be if this was a live tour. Then the Makatio Facility is our second facility, and they live under the flight path to Painfield. Their primary product line is wire harnesses and electrical panels. They'll take you through a little bit of what you're going to see on the production floor here. We have machining, so we do a variety of machining. We have capabilities for machining at both locations. Most of it's done in Auburn. We have mechanical assembly services, both here and in Makatio. Hydraulic assembly services, so these are complex, very aerospace-y assemblies that are done. You'll see a lot of this stuff on the tour here in a little bit. We do a lot of sheet metal work. In fact, that was our original work statement that we started with, was making sheet metal products. And aerospace finishing. So that's painting, the chemical coatings and painting that's done on aerospace parts. As I mentioned, our Makatio division also does wire harnesses and electrical panels. All of it's aerospace. 99 point something percent of our work statement is currently aerospace. And that's been a great place to be until this last year. So that's part of the story here, is that Orion has taken some reductions in size over the last year and a half, and we've managed to stay solvent and whole, and actually producing at a level of excellence throughout that time frame. And now we're starting to ramp back up, so kind of exciting times. A little bit of our excellence history. We've won a ton of awards. We're really proud of that. Most recently, P&A Inspire Award was just handed out, and that was a great honor for us. So a whole series of things that we've done. In there was a nonprofit award. So many of you may not recognize, Orion is actually a nonprofit organization. I hope that you don't think we look like a nonprofit, or at least your impression of a nonprofit. And I hope that you think of us as a competitive aerospace company that practices excellence, because that's what we want to be to perform our nonprofit mission. That mission is that we believe everybody should have the opportunity to work. Stated in a nutshell, that's it. Our goal is to take people from the community that have been marginalized on employment, either through having a disability or for whatever reason. They can apply to our program. They come in, and we put them through an orientation, and if they pass our entrance criteria, which basically means that they're able to pass a drug test, that this appears to be a program that's suitable for them, and that they have an interest and can make the orientation, make it through the orientation programs and such and appear to be valid, then they'll get entered into the program and be brought on as a temporary employee. The reason we do this is because of this particular metric right here. People with disabilities are about two-thirds, people without disabilities are about two-thirds likely to be in the workforce. People with disabilities, less than 1 in 5 actually make it into the workforce currently. And there's really no reason for that. A quick understanding of disabilities: many people who carry a disability do not need to be impacted by that disability in the workplace. And truth be told, most all of us have something that we're not good at, even to a level where we might be able to get a diagnosis as a disability. There's no benefit to doing that. I don't recommend that you do that, but all people are better or not better at certain things, and finding out what people are good at is what Orion is all about. We do that through a 5-step training program. And it starts out with an assessment where we have trained mentors on our shop floor that are evaluating the program participants as they come out and work in an area. We evaluate them on set criteria that gives us the ability to determine what gaps they need to address before they are competitive and successful at long-term employment. We have vocational counselors that will be helping address those gaps along with the mentors and providing supports for things that are even outside of the workplace. Everybody needs transportation, daycare, a safe place to live and be ready to come into work. We help program participants find those opportunities. We provide training. Obviously, a lot of our effort goes into training program participants in particular jobs. And you'll see this on the shop floor a little bit, and then we'll have someone that talks about this towards the end here. Work experience, they'll be getting work experience that helps them build a resume that may be applicable to their career path that they select. Then we do job placement services, which includes career counseling. So people are heading for a pathway where we believe that they're likely to find success based on what we've learned about them through the training program. And then we help guide them towards employers that are hiring those types of positions. All of the people that leave Orion, if they leave Orion successfully, they leave it through competitive employment at an advertised type of a job position. There's no special positions that are created to hire Orion employees. They'll typically make that leap from our training program into competitive employment in about the 4 to 6 month time frame. We'll let it go up to a year for people who have particular career goals or gaps that they need to address that take a little more time. But most people make that leap in the 4 to 6 month time frame. The things that we focus on in our program are probably the things that all of us need to pay attention to stay successful in our career. Very few people lose their jobs or maybe more importantly fail to get a job because of skill. That's usually not the thing that caused people to lose their job. We found that focusing on these 9, we call them winning traits, will help a person be successful at long-term employment. Very simply, attendance, attitude, appearance, teamwork, time management, communication, organization, respect, and character. So those are the 9 things that Orion spends our time focusing on. So in 2020, we had even with 2020, we had some pretty great success metrics. So we did serve 247 people through a variety of programs, not just the program that I'm describing, but all of our programs that we run. We did achieve 91 community job placements in that program. That's people that transitioned from chronic unemployment to at least 90 days of successful employment. The average wage was $15.77. That may not be great, but remember, these are entry level. These are people who are entering the workforce, and they're entering full-time jobs with benefits at that rate. And probably best of all, at the 1 year mark, we measure our retention to see how many people were successful at retaining those jobs. 87%. That compares to a little less than 2/3 of the population at large is able to retain a job for at least a year. So our program graduates that were chronically unemployed outperform the population at large at the 1 year mark. And then lastly, this program provides at least a $4 million community impact. And that's due to the fact that those people that we have brought into the program, they're employees as soon as they join Orion. That means they come off unemployment, or they come off of many of the subsistence programs that they may have been on, and they become paid taxpayers in our community. And they retain that status if they successfully complete the program. So no longer are they drawing funds out of government and from our taxes. They're actually contributing to taxes and contributing to the community and paying for the community that they're part of. So it's a huge impact each year, and that's each year $4 million. Each graduating class is worth about $4 million to the community. So that compounds year over year over year. So it's a huge impact that we offer, and that more than justifies the nonprofit status that Orion has. So with that, I probably bored you to tears with Orion. Before I hand this off to the tour, does anybody have any questions before we head out?
I don't see any questions, but I do want to say that I had a very close friend go through your program. She had was diagnosed with cancer, owned her own business, and went through your program, got retrained, and now she's an office manager for a chiropractor. So gave her a totally new career and confidence and everything. It's a great program.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I appreciate the comments. Okay. So now, this is probably what most of you signed on for, was you wanted to see what Orion actually does. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mike Barsowski. Mike is the operations manager for Orion. He runs the Auburn facility. So everything you're about to see is Mike's world out there. So with that, Mike?
Tom, I have a question, if I may.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you ever consider offering the same capacities at both locations? Would you ever add metal fabrication to Makatio or wire harnesses to Auburn?
You know, at this point here, we've decided that the work statements that we have are probably best kept consolidated. There's not really, our customers are not interested in having a second site, you know, for wire harness development or for sheet metal work. And the capital and the processes that are necessary make it challenging. We did, though, to your point, Matt, we did move machining up to Makatio, and we started that process up there. Of course, we did that about a year before the pandemic hit and changed the capacity for machining in aerospace. But that was the reason we did that, was more to provide training opportunities for the program participants.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. So Mike, handing it back to you.
Welcome to Orion Auburn. Nice to have you this morning. My name, as Tom mentioned, is Mike Varsosky. I'm the operations manager here in Auburn, and welcome to the tour portion of our program this morning. So I'll be giving you a tour throughout the shop floor. Joining me is my esteemed colleague and cameraman, Josh, who, when he's not being our technical expert, is part of the quality assurance department. So without further ado, let's head out onto the shop floor. So as Tom mentioned, the building here is roughly 6 to 7 years old, so relatively new in manufacturing terms. And the manufacturing portion of the shop consumes about 75 to 80,000 square feet. And what's really unique about Orion, in addition to our mission, is the variety of different processes that we have in the shop. So our first stop on the tour is our machining center, machining department. And within this cell, we have 3, 4, and 5-axis machining. So for those of you who may not know what machining is, essentially, it's taking a block or a piece of material, a raw piece of material, and finding the part that is within it. So taking a block of material such as this and removing metal and finding the part within it like this. So these machines use a variety of cutters and different milling axes to do that. So let's go over here. The process essentially starts with our inbound queue. So we have saw and shear operators at the back end of the building, and they marry up the raw material with the job packets. Once that's done, we have a setup person within the CNC area here, the machine shop, that holds all of the tooling, the hard tooling, and the cutting tools for the job. Once they marry those two things up, they put them in the inbound queue, and they're ready to go on a machine and be machined. So within our system, we typically run on a FIFO system, which is first in, first out. So the first job that arrives in the cell is typically the first job that will get worked on. The last job that arrives is the last one that gets worked on. So the inbound queue is continually shifting as jobs are pulled from slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. So it snakes its way around the queue. We are currently running, a bit of background information, currently running a 2-shift operation here. When things were extremely busy in the 2018-2019 timeframe, we were up to full three shift, 7 days a week operation. One thing you'll notice as we go on the tour is a communication board in pretty much every cell that we have out on the shop floor here. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is the transparency of information we have to all employees in the company. And the communication boards are relatively standard, and the information they contain, we have vital factors, which are measurements for our quality rates, our on-time delivery, etc. And each one of the cells measures those vital factors. We have training matrices for each one of the cells that shows each member in the department, as well as what particular skill sets they possess and what they're able to operate. So we review these weekly and monthly with the teams, just as a source of continuous information, and to make sure they're educated and they know how we're doing as a team and how the company's performing. Okay. Next up, I wanted to show a job that we have. Hi, Chase.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I want to show a job that has an interesting history here. So this part right here, this is called a filler. It's a relatively simple part with the exception of the tapered surface on it. And at one point in time, this part went through 3 different departments and had a total of 7 different operations to manufacture it for this little part. I don't know the exact time, but I'm guessing the total accumulated time per piece was about 30 minutes to an hour between each department. So between 30 and 60 minutes to make this thing. One of the things that I'm really proud of this, the machining team, is their ability to increase efficiencies and find improvements in everything they do every day. This part, through a series of changes and improvements, now resides on our 4-axis mill over there, and literally it is loaded into the machine and is made in one operation. So we can now make this part in literally 1 minute. So you think about that improvement. Previously 30 minutes total time to make a simple piece like this. We now make it in a minute. And if you look at the bin here, there's a lot of parts in that bin. So 9 minutes per part saved times that many parts. That's a ton of time. And as we know in manufacturing, time is money. So one of the things that we've learned here at Orion is in the past, when lean became the popular thing to do, and when it became really essential for manufacturing, aerospace manufacturing, I think what was in vogue was very large projects that had many people and took a lot of time to complete, weeks on end. And people were really looking for huge results from these projects. What we have found and what really works for us is these small daily improvements. This is a good example of a fairly big find and a very successful improvement. But the team here is on a daily basis looking for improvements that shave seconds or minutes off our project, off our work. And while not as exciting as a large project, these minutes and seconds, they add up, especially when you're doing it every day on multiple different jobs. So it's really been embraced by the team here. It's part of the culture, and it's no longer the management team that's driving this. It's the actual team that is running the machines and operating the cell that bring this stuff to us and find it and are proud of it and want to do it. So I think that's really been one of the big differences for us and our continuous improvement program here at Orion, is that it really is employee owned at this point, and they do just a fabulous job of it. So that's our CNC milling department. Let's take a walk down here. As Tom mentioned, most of the trainees, as you look throughout the shop, you're going to see a mix of staff members that actually work for employees, as well as trainees that are in the program. And a lot of times, you won't know the difference. They're working side by side. Trainees work side by side with their mentors, and they are doing a lot of the things that our regular staff members do. They're operating machines, they're assembling parts, all that kind of stuff. As Tom had mentioned, most trainees are in the program from about 4 to 6 months, up to a year, of course. And typically they rotate throughout the shop on a 4-week basis. So as an example, a trainee may spend 4 weeks in the CNC area, and then when they're done their tour of duty there, so to speak, they'll come to another area in the shop. So with our program, we're not trying to graduate highly skilled, trained, certified machinist assemblers from our program. We're giving people an opportunity to see a variety of different aspects of manufacturing and really allow them to decide what they're good at and what they like. So the next area we're going to visit is clamp block, and I'll show you what that is. But that all starts here with the machining of some small channels, and culminates in this cell over here with the assembly of the clamp block. So although our clamp block cell is relatively small in size, there is a very, very high volume of parts that run through this cell. Back in the peak of the aerospace boom in 2018, 2019, we were producing roughly 2. And in essence, what these things do is, you can imagine in the fuselage of an airplane, there's numerous hydraulic lines running up and down the plane. These are essentially clamps that hold them in place and steady them during flight. So in this cell, we are assembling the clamp blocks. And what's really interesting to note is that the majority of this cell is run by trainees in our program. We have, I want to say, approximately 7 or 8 staff members that work in the cell. Everybody else is a trainee. So literally, without them, we could not run this cell. Now, this is also a great area for our trainees to start in the program and start their rotation in the shop. As you can imagine, a lot of the people that enter our program have never been in a manufacturing environment before. And some of them, truthfully, have never had a job before. So when you look around, it's a lot to take in. When somebody is first exposed to this environment, it really can be overwhelming. There's a lot of sights and sounds and foreign machinery that you don't really know what it does, and just it looks very complex, to be quite honest. So for the first couple weeks of the program, it's nice to get the trainees in an area like this where they can focus on a single task and become acclimatized to the environment. Now, one of the complexities with aerospace manufacturing, of course, is there's a lot of documentation. That documentation includes engineering drawings, engineering specifications, our internal paperwork, all of that stuff. One of the interesting process improvements we undertook in this cell was we created simple visual work procedures for the trainees in this cell. So this is basically a work instruction that is the culmination of the engineering drawing, the specifications, and actual pictures of the components they're putting together. Most of the trainees that come to our program have never seen an engineering drawing or have never worked with an aerospace specification. So we want to simplify it and make it as easy as possible for them. So the picture on the work instruction shows a disassembled part as well as a fully assembled part. And it's very easy to follow. Now, to make it even easier, every component that comes with this is in its own bag and labeled. So it's not all mixed and jumbled together to get confused. They can organize it in an orderly manner to help them assemble it and ultimately be successful. And this is kind of what a kit looks like here. This is a disassembled clamp block in various different poses. And like I say, when we are extremely busy and we're building 2,000 of these a day, there's a lot of movement in this cell. So next up, Josh, we're going to go across the aisle to our finished cell. So this is our aerospace finishing cell, and this is the newest addition to our capabilities here at Orion. And if you can imagine, I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago, this was all empty space. There was nothing here. This was just empty floor space. We made the decision that we wanted to bring our finishing business in-house. Typically, in the past, it's an operation that we've outsourced, but we thought it would be a good idea for a number of reasons to bring that in-house and do it here. So the original thought was there's money to be made to do that. Bringing it in-house, we're going to save money and it's going to be better for our overall business. But in addition to that, it provides training opportunities, additional training opportunities for our trainees. So we have trainees working in this department. And one of the biggest improvements that came along with finishing in-house was the fact that our lead times decreased. Rather than having to send something out to a supplier, transport it there, wait for them to complete it, transport it back, we can do all this stuff in-house now. So it's much, much quicker. So a variety of different benefits as to why we did this and are doing it. So hey, Chris. So for those of you not familiar with aerospace finishing, basically it involves a series of processes. This is the chemical process line, and paint is also applied to a lot of parts. And what it does is it improves the corrosion resistance of the parts that are installed on an airplane. You know, most of the parts on the airplane are aluminum, and during the 20 to 40 year service life of an airplane, they can be exposed to a variety of different conditions, which can cause corrosion and ultimately could lead to part failure. So to prevent that, one of the first steps in the process for finishing is to apply a chemical coating to the surface of the part. Now, not only does that improve the corrosion resistance, but it allows a better base for the application of paint. So that's what we're doing here. At Orion, our capabilities for chemical processing include boric sulfuric acid anodizing and chem treat, which is basically allodyne. One of the interesting things, since this is a relatively new line, we were able to design this from the ground up and really had a clean sheet of paper to start with. One of the things I think we're most proud of, and it really helped with the operation, is the fact that we have TV screens up behind the tank line that displays real time the status of every tank in the line. So this is the real time dashboard for our operators to understand what's happening in each tank. It displays the temperature, the time a load's been in, when it needs to come out, etc. May not seem like a really high-tech addition to a finish line, but most finish lines don't have this, and it's been very helpful for us. So we have the display screens at the start, middle, and end of our line to show. So at the start of the line, parts come into the line over here. They come into our inbound queue, and basically from there, they're sorted by process. We put little colored dots on them, so it's a visual reminder, shows us very simply what processes that the part will experience. From there, the parts are racked and subjected to the chemical processing. Now, what's interesting, a manufacturer like Orion, we literally have thousands of different part configurations. So the difficulty, if you think about it, finding racks that can accommodate those thousands of different part configurations. So we have, porcupine racks, we have finger racks, all kinds of different racking devices. And this enables us to basically finish a huge variety of parts. And I must say, our specialty here at Orion, parts that are an inch or two long, up to beams, I think, that are a maximum of 3 or 4 feet long. So that's kind of our sweet spot, around the size of a bread box. Now, once the parts are finished chemically, they come out of the chem room and are removed from the racks and placed on painting racks. So some parts go directly from chemical finishing to the customer storage, but most of them do get paint, either solely a primer or a primer and a top coat. And this is our paint area. This is where we paint them. And once again, if you can imagine all the different configurations we have for these parts, we place the parts on a rack, and essentially the painters in the booth over there, they shoot one side of the part. After the one side of the part is painted, it's got to be forced air dried under heat. So there is a lot of activity occurring between the paint booth and the drying of it as we flip parts, paint the other side, and apply multiple coats and even top coats. So there's a lot of movement back and forth between here. So one of the things we've done to try and simplify it and make it, once again, a visual system, we put swim lanes on the floor. And with the arrows and with the labeling, it tells you exactly where the parts are headed and what's been done to them. So quick visual indicator. When we first started the line, we were having difficulty tracking at what stage of the process the part was in. Carts and racks were getting mixed up, and it just really wasted a lot of time. So the painters do an amazing job of this, and they can keep very close track of where something's at and what's going on with it. So one of the improvements that we made that has helped tremendously. Okay, so I think now we will head on down to our mechanical assembly area, which is right next to the finish cell.
While you're walking, Mike, Steve Bishop from Bader Martin has a couple of questions for you. Steve, do you want to come off mute really quick and ask your questions? It might be a question for Tom Brocious.
That sounds good. Fire away.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, the first question I had was, how do workers hear about Orion and the opportunity?
That's a very good question, and Tom might be better able to answer that. But the quick answer is there's a variety of different ways. We have intake counselors that essentially scour the earth and look through our community, searching for people. We have a lot of referrals. We work with government agencies. There's a number of different ways that someone can get into our program. What I can do as well is after I'm done with the shop floor tour, I'm handing off to colleagues who are going to talk a little bit more about the program. Maybe I can get them to mention that for you as well.
Okay. That might be a good time for my second question, which is what percentage of the annual operations are covered by your actual product sales?
Close to 100%. That's one of the things that we're very proud of here at Orion is that unlike a lot of non-profit or philanthropic organizations, we're self-funded. So what you see here, all the parts we're making, all the parts we're selling to our customers, that's what funds our mission and that's what drives us. An interesting side note, you know, when you mention Orion in the community, a lot of people think of us first as an aerospace manufacturer, you know, a tier one supplier to Boeing and other manufacturers. But in all truth and honesty, that's kind of our secondary function. We're here for the trainees. We are a mission-based organization, and that's why we exist. This is in support of that.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. So next up is our mechanical assembly cell, and a lot of the details that we make throughout the shop end up in the cell here, where they're assembled into larger, higher level assemblies. And a couple interesting things to note about this cell. Across the aisleway here is our inventory control area. So all of the detailed metal parts are basically picked from stock and married up with a job traveler, and then they're delivered over here. Once they arrive in the mechanical assembly area, a member of the team here is responsible for picking all of the associated hardware needed, whether that be nuts, bolts, rivets, whatever might be required. So we've actually implemented a point of use inventory system where the mechanical assembly department manages all of their hardware and they issue it to the job. So it's right in the cell, which saves a lot of time, and they're the experts in it. They know how to manage it. So, and that's what you can see right here. So once a job is fully picked, has all the details, has all the hardware, it's pretty much ready to be assembled. So from there, the kit is put onto our inbound queue for the technicians. And you'll notice that the shelf has 3 different levels. What we've done in mechanical assembly here, we have broken the jobs out into 3 levels of difficulty. So we have a Tech 1 shelf, a Tech 2, and a Tech 3 shelf on the bottom. And as you go down, the jobs get more difficult to assemble. The reason we did that is within the cell, we have a variety of different skill levels. And in order to make it feasible to hand out jobs on a daily basis and keep people working seamlessly, depending on your skill level is where you would grab a job from. So obviously a Tech level 3 is the highest level technician in the cell, and they are of course capable of doing any job. So Sarah, who's standing behind Josh, is the lead in mechanical assembly, and she's responsible for handing the jobs out to each one of her technicians on a daily basis and making sure it flows so that she can manage the queue levels in each one of these flows so that it doesn't get overloaded or jobs become late. So within mechanical assembly, once again, if you'll notice on their communication board, they have a training matrix here. There are a few certified operations there are a few operations within this cell that require certification, riveting, bonding, sealing being a couple. So once again, a Tech level 1 job would be the type of job that does not have any certification requirements. It's just basic assembly. Whereas you move down to a Tech level 3, there's more certifications and more experience and skill required. So that's mechanical assembly. A little keeping with the assembly theme, heading downstream. So this is our main quality assurance area. This is where Josh spends most of his time when he's not our audio visual expert. every part and or assembly that we manufacture in this facility goes through end item quality and receives some form of inspection prior to being shipped to the customer or going back into stock. Within quality, we use the basic inspection equipment here: calipers, gauges, hardness tester. In the back, behind the double swinging doors there, we have a small CMM, a coordinate measuring machine, which is an automated measuring machine that I believe Josh told me is accurate to 1/10,000th of an inch. Correct, Josh? Yep. So capable of much more fine measurement than a human with a hand tool. Hydraulic assembly. So this cell here is our hydraulic assembly cell, and this is essentially a package of work we unloaded of roughly 300 to 400 parts, 300 to 400 flight critical hydraulic parts. And what differentiates this cell a little bit is it's a FOD critical area. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, FOD is foreign objects debris, which can cause foreign object damage. Because we have hydraulic parts here, a lot of the componentry has cavities and spaces within it where foreign material, a nut, a bolt, a rivet, a metal chip could enter it. When that happens, that's a problem. So it can cause failure of the component, and in extreme cases, FOD has been known to down an airplane in flight. So it's a very serious problem and something we take seriously back here. Interesting piece of equipment. Most of the assemblies that we put together in the hydraulic area here are part mark. So this is our part mark machine, and what we've done is we've developed a software system that works off a barcode scanner. So when the work order for the job comes back here, we scan the barcode, and up pops essentially a tech sheet. It has a picture of the assembly. It shows where the part mark needs to go and all associated information with it. Why that's important, for somebody who's been here a long time and has worked in this cell, you begin to memorize the parts, you know what needs to be done. But we have trainees, we're a little different. And this simplifies it for trainees so that anyone can do this job really. It standardizes it and allows them to be able to do it. So here's actually, I think that is that part. This hydraulic cylinder was pulled up on the screen. You can see the picture of it right here. And here's the part that was just completed with the part mark and the overcoat applied. And I would say this is probably one of the larger assemblies that we manufacture and inspect back here in hydraulic assembly. When we were in mechanical assembly, we talked a little bit about certification. So this is probably, in terms of certification, this is the most intense area of the company that requires certification to perform a lot of the functions that are required for assembly. Here's one of our processes. This is what we call our boost pump testing area. So over here, Josh, is an example of a boost pump. So this is a fuel boost pump that goes in the wing of a 737 airplane. And as the name indicates, it pumps fuel to the plane. And years ago, when we started making these things, essentially, after we assembled the parts, they would go directly to the customer and be installed on a plane. And they didn't have any sort of functional test. The functional test occurred on the line. When you experience a failure in a part like that, where's the most expensive part of the process where you can experience the failure? At final assembly. So that was a problem. One of our ideas to fix that problem was to perform pressure testing. Now, even though that's a hydraulic component, we perform air pressure testing on these components here to look for any sort of leaks, damaged components, anything that might be wrong with them. So our technicians, upon building a boost pump, hook them up to pressurized air and have to maintain a certain level of air pressure. I think it's between 34 and 36 PSI for something like 20 minutes. And we have a solution that we can spray on the part to see if we suspect there is a leak. It bubbles and foams and gives a good visual indicator. So that's an improvement that we implemented mid-process, and literally, when a defective part is discovered or found, thousands of dollars are saved for the customer. So this is really a big deal. Once again, very simple, not highly complex, but a big savings that results in real dollars, the bottom line. Once again, here is our communication board for the hydraulic assembly area. And as you can see by the amount of different skills and colors on the training matrix, there's a lot of different things that people need to be certified on before they can be capable of completing every job that's typically in the area. One other thing I think I'd like to mention, as we've walked around the shop floor, you probably noticed a lot of striping on the floor and a lot of labels. We pride ourselves on being a visual factory. We have a 6S program, which is essentially industrial housekeeping, a place for everything and everything in its place. And that's something that we have consciously, that's a journey we have consciously went upon to keep the shop floor looking pristine, clean, organized, and nice. It not only makes things more efficient and makes the operation flow smoother, it's just really nice to come into it on a daily basis and have clean floors, clean walls, and to be able to see that and make it obvious. And once again, it's a big help for our training program, because with the visual instructions and everything being visual, it's much easier for them to learn and catch on and really get into a groove earlier in the program than might normally be if we didn't have this in place. So I think I'm probably out of time right now, and that's the end of our tour. So if we had any questions, I can field some of those right now. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Control Center for Tiffany and Tricia.
I've got one question here from Barbara Sandberg from AHT. Barbara, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
I just, thanks for, by the way, for this tour. It's amazing. That's, got the wheels turning. It's very inspiring. But I was wondering, I know you guys are self-funding and all of that, but are there opportunities to do volunteer work? I don't know if that's a question for you or necessarily, or maybe somebody at Tom, on Tom's team. But if there's a way of involving the community, I'd be really interested in hearing about it.
I think the short answer during COVID times is no. We live in a different world right now. If you'll even notice as I'm walking around, I'm probably the only person in this facility not wearing a face mask right now. So it's not something I think we've regularly done, but I'm sure there is opportunities. It's a great question. I think it would be a good way for people to get involved. So Tom or anybody else who's still online, anything to add to that question?
Yeah, Mike's right. Right now, we're really not considering bringing a lot of folks in-house. We've taken the COVID precautions very seriously. That said, though, typically we haven't used volunteers in the programs. More we use volunteers, people who are advocates for the program to help us spread the word about the program and help us advocate for the missions and the things that we find important. It's probably more along the lines of being able to control the experiences and the pathway that our program participants are on. However, I'm interested to hear, I'll bring that up with our training and employment Training and Services Vice President, see what she thinks about that. So thanks for the thought.
And then Matt Smith has a question. Matt?
Yeah, for the fuel pump assembly, what % of the parts are fabricated within Orion as opposed to just assembly of outside suppliers?
Very, very close to 0%. There are a couple of small details we make inside, but the vast majority of that particular work statement comes from the big players in the hydraulic industry, the Parkers, etc. So it's kind of a unique work statement in here in that the parts come in and the only value add for us is we apply labor. We assemble them, we test them, and then we ship them out to the customers. So with regards to that work center, we're not making hardly any of the parts, which makes it unique within Orion.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Andy Pratico. Are you in here, Andy? Andy is wondering if he can ask which ERP system Orion uses.
Good question. A timely question, actually, too. We just implemented a new ERP system, I believe, July of last year. So we're still kind of in the learning phase. Before July, we were running Visual by Infor, and we switched to Epicor. And like I said, it's still fairly early on. What is that about 9 months? 9 months of field use and testing on the ERP system. So we're still learning it.
Okay. That's all I've got so far.
Okay, thank you. Pleasure to tour you all around our shop. We're very proud of it, and enjoy the rest of the program.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. That was awesome. I appreciate all the comments that people brought in as well. Tricia, would you go ahead and take over and go ahead and hit it?
Hi, everybody. Hello. Woo. So my name is Tricia, and I have Tiffany Essex with us. And I am a vocational counselor that works in our training and employment side of Orion. We have to confess, we haven't been on this for the whole time, so we don't know how much Tom talked about our services, but we do hope that we can answer any questions about that. So just the nuts and bolts, I mean, as you see, we get to make really fun parts, but also our mission is it, right? We are here because we want to help people get out into the workforce and be successful. And sometimes people have had bumps and they need help to do that. And there's a lot of different ways that we do that. What's really cool is Tiffany is one of our mentors in our shop. So she's out there making the parts and getting to help the people. So I want to just ask her a couple questions, but really, you guys, we're here for you. So if you have any questions, feel free. We have the chat box or however the mediator wants to do it, but just kind of informal. We just really want to help you guys understand what we do because we're excited about it. So Tiffany, you get to make parts and help people.
I do.
So what would you say is your role in doing that and helping people that come through the program?
So just to give you guys a little bit of background about myself, I did come to Orion through the program 8 years ago. I started mentoring about a year into my journey with Orion. I was looking for an opportunity for a positive change in my life's path. And Orion definitely provided me with that. I did not have any manufacturing experience at all. I came from working at a car wash. And when I got here, yeah, it was a little bit overwhelming, but having great mentors here to support me, help me through the learning process of it all, it really helped build my confidence. And gave me the tools that I needed to be successful. So that's what I get to give back as a mentor. Every 4 weeks, we get new clients in that come to our area. We greet them and we welcome them into our area and get them comfortable with learning our Epicor system, clocking on and off jobs, showing them their workstations and what type of tasks they'll be performing for the day. We also go over area expectations. I think every job has expectations of their employees, and so we want to keep that structure there with them and just help them through their day. Provide them any kind of assistance that they need if they're struggling. We do that with positive encouragement and just support on a daily basis while being here at Orion.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
So as you guys might expect, people come here at different levels of readiness with different challenges. We work with all sorts of, folks with sometimes it's managing their personal stuff so that work stays in line. You know, sometimes it's work behaviors. So Tiffany, say you're working with somebody and there are some work behaviors that aren't going to be helpful to them out in that next job. And so where do you start with kind of figuring that out or helping them?
It's really through engagement and observation. And when we, as mentors, kind of see something, we have to, first of all, make them aware. They may not notice that their attitude may be a little gruff or you know, uneasy, or if they're anxious. We just do what we can to try and help calm them, help them stay in the moment and focus on what they're doing at that point in time. Just really try to build up their self-esteem and their confidence, because when they have that positiveness, it in return helps them do a better job with the task at hand.
Yeah, what's pretty cool is that, I mean, these mentors are out there hands-on doing it and getting their hands dirty, sometimes literally. And so as a counselor who's, you know, helping guide these folks more behind the scene, we get to work as a team. And so if Tiffany or the mentors are seeing something that, ooh, you know, that's not gonna help you keep a job out there, then we have these online evaluations that are done every week to get that information over to their counselor. And so then Tiffany is in the moment kind of helping them, giving them gentle reminders and feedback, but also then they're meeting with me where we can privately really address some of these things and really try to minimize these barriers, or, hey, what's going on that's making this look like this? That awareness is, you know, how many people come here and don't even realize, oh, no wonder I've always gotten fired. I didn't realize, like, that's how I come off to people when I'm nervous, or I am not really great at communicating. And so it's so great when the light bulb goes on. And I love the teamwork, because it's first usually caught by a mentor, and then the counselors can also kind of reinforce it from the back end. It's really rewarding, and I think it's good when it's just a good system. People are all different with all different kinds of challenges, right? So different strategies. You know, sometimes if somebody is having a hard time technically with the tasks, I mean, what do you do in that kind of a situation? They're a great worker, but ooh, they're having a, you know, a tough time understanding.
Well,
what do you do?
You slow it down, you stay by their side, and you help them work through it together. We want to make them feel supported. So we don't just tell them what to do, we help them with what they need to do. You know, some people can handle multi-step processes. Some people are more single-step process. So that's one thing that we identify. Are they good with multitasking, or are they just better doing one repetitive step at a time? So we just work with them and help them be successful with that in any way that we can, with organization, helping them be efficient in their job.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's such information gathering, right? To help people learn and understand how they learn too, what they're good at. Some people, you just tell them, explain how to do something, and they're off and running. Some people, hey, you gotta show me. That's how I'm gonna really remember it. Or, you know, I'm not gonna remember. Let me, you know, Tiffany, will you write it down for me?
A visual aid. Visual aids are a great way to learn. It's a great tool. We have a lot of that around our area. There's a lot of variety. So what doesn't work for some, we have other avenues that we can have them try, and they take off and they're running with it, and they're great at it. So it's just really about identifying what works best for that individual person. You know, whether it's data entry, or how, you know, their stamina, if they can stand for long periods of time, or maybe they need to sit half their shift, or
So many things.
So many different
So many
things.
things. What's cool too, we keep saying how cool we are, sorry, is that this empowers and arms these folks when they go, you know, oh, I never realized this is the way I learn the best, and helps me be successful and reach my obligations, reach my expectations. They can go into that next job knowing, hey, if you show me this way, I'm going to get it and I'm going to be successful for you, because training isn't a one size fits all. And so that's how we try to, our job developers who get these folks out in the community, try to go and help that next employer, like, hey, John here is going to learn really well, but here's the best way that he's going to do that and be able to get it. It just kind of cuts through sometimes miscommunication that can happen, or, you know, it just gets right to what's going to be the best kind of way. So pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Tricia, we have a question from Matt Smith. Are you on, Matt?
Yeah. He asked, what's the range of disabilities in your clients? I'm probably good to answer that. So we work with people, even a bigger umbrella than disabilities, all sorts of barriers. So Tom, sorry, you probably covered this, but people, you know, faced with homelessness, past addiction, poverty, just all sorts of bumps in the road. Disability, pretty wide range. You know, mental health, especially right now, is a really real concern, and keeping stable and just having that managed. Learning disabilities, you know, these folks are smart and ready to do. They can learn. That label, I think, learning disability implies differently, but it's just, how do you learn best, right? How do you retain stuff? Physical disability, you know, just finding jobs that fit that and reasonable accommodation. Head injury, autism spectrum, just different ways of communicating, right? Like, you know, someone's on the autism spectrum, doesn't mean that they can't be a really strong worker. But if you use subtle hints, hey, it might be nice to do it that way. That might not get picked up on. You need to say, John, I need you to do it that way, please. It's an easy thing, but to have employers and the person be armed with, this is what works. You need to be direct with me, please, or I'm not going to get it. So easy, right? Just these workarounds that just make everybody feel included and be able to be successful. So I hope that answered your question. Pretty wide range.
Does anyone else
Yeah,
have any questions?
I saw a question earlier that I think Matt sent me directly. Matt asked a question whether or what percentage of our positions are filled by trainees. To be a little more specific, I'm gonna actually just give you the numbers because I think it's the percent doesn't really tell the story. So we have 40 training positions that are actively filled between Auburn and Makatio. That means that each week we attempt to have at least 40 people signed up and in the training program going through it. And then each week, of course, some of them are exiting. About over 60% of them are exiting because they've successfully achieved employment somewheres. There's somewheres around 40% that are exiting for some other reason. It's frequently attendance, but it can easily be that we found something in their either their medical history or their or medical experience or their performance history that requires them to achieve or to seek a different type of help to address their problems. We only can place somebody in competitive employment if they're ready for that. And some people face challenges that prevent them from achieving that hurdle just yet. So about 40% fall off of that. To be honest, I think most of the people that fall out just due to a lack of will to keep doing it. And that's where the mentors come in to try to encourage and keep those people enthusiastic. It'd be hard to imagine somebody having a happier, better face to show up to than coming to work for Tiffany every week. And so, you know, you'd expect that's probably that's what we hope to have in a mentor, is an experience like coming in and sitting down and having somebody encouraging to talk to them and bring them on board. To answer Matt's question a little more clearly, right now Orion has about 161 permanent staff members supporting the 40 training positions. It's also important to recognize those training positions are turning over fairly regularly. And so that's where that 247 number comes from, the number of the people that we have engaged with and helped each year. So 160 people are supporting about 247 people each year at this point here. And that is quite a bit down from where we were a little over a year ago based on the aerospace business performance.
All right.
Yeah.
To just piggyback, oh, my thoughts, so many thoughts. You were oh, sorry. Let me think of which to say first. So Matt, you were also talking when you asked about the range of disabilities. So I should clarify that while we do work with a big range of people, we do work in competitive employment. And so if you're all familiar with supported employment, that's not really our purview. So the idea is, you know, we're not going in for our Auburn branch. We're not going into an employer and job coaching, and these people are really for us to recommend them out into competitive employment. That's folks that are ready to go be successful on their own with reasonable accommodations or not. So I just want to clarify that. So the developmental disabilities, the intellectual disabilities, that's a little bit more higher need and supported employment, which we don't really do too much of here. But I'll also say, oh, I remember the piggyback. When people come here and, you know, not everyone is going to be ready at that right time, right? And so what we hope to do is really identify, here are the supports you need, here are the things that aren't quite in line, and really offer them resources to help get that in line. And we have people who, you know, use that, go away, get those in line and come back, and then they're ready to be successful the next time. And we're here to do that. And that's pretty cool, right? You've seen people come and then like, oh, they weren't ready and they leave here and we didn't get to do the job thing. But then you've seen probably a lot of people come back.
There's a lot of things to life, and that they have to take care of it, you know, and that's what they do. And then they do come back, and it's great to see their face because they chose to come back, and they chose to come back for a reason, because they know that Orion is here to support them and help them along their way. Sometimes we stumble, but you always get back up and push forward and make the best of it. So we're here to help support them do that.
Yeah.
And we have a great team for that.
Yeah. There's no shame in not maybe having it right the first time.
Right.
You know, that's life sometimes.
I have one last question here from D. Tren.
Yeah, so what additional support and benefit does Orion provide to the employees, for many of whom this will be their first job? Yeah, we do see a lot of people that this is their first job. So this would be probably more on the counselor side. I mean, definitely mentor. You have more on your plate when it's someone's first job sometimes, because they really don't know what are boundaries, what are
It's good work ethic.
Mhm. Yeah, and then on the counselor side, sometimes people do need sort of help with the finances, medical, all of that stuff, managing their transportation, their housing needs to change. There's so many things that can happen. We don't have the magic answers, but we, you know, we're there as a support. You know, we're just kind of like their buddy there. Let's work our connections. Let's link you up. Oh, we know these housing things. Here's a place where you can get low-cost dental. Let's make it to where you can make an appointment. We'll let you take that time to go do it. Sometimes people just really, it can be overwhelming. I've got all these things. How do I manage all of these things? And it's like, all right, let's just take these one at a time. Let's get them kind of managed. So we do a lot of linking them to resources and helping them do for themselves with help. So we make connections out there. So we try to know, you know, best ways to help, just give them a little leg up.
All right. Well, we want to be considerate of everyone's time here. I'm going to ask Kirk to come back on. Are you there, Kirk?
Okay, yes, thank you. I want to thank everybody for their participation, for your questions, for being here. I want to thank Ryan and the staff and the team. We've just had I think an exceptional event. So I encourage you to spread the word about Orion and the opportunities for people in your community that you know. And I want to thank Orion for being part of our CAMPS community and our manufacturing ecosystem. So thank you so much.